I want to talk about 6 steps, 8 steps.
I can say, me and Slim do the same dance.
Right.
Okay? So, and the thing about it is this. All partner dance have 6 steps. So when I went back and did my steps, it's 6 steps. What the 8 counters did was this. They added 2 counts, which is really 2 pauses. First of all, when you got a lady count, I have no idea why a lady is counting and I'm leading her. That's number 1. Dance on the right foot, because all of them guys lead on the left foot because it's easier to teach a woman.
OG, 2 letters that define respect. I created the original OGs to document the forgotten parts of American history. I want to recognize and give a voice to the men and women that have climbed to the top of their game. The men and women this marquee have been authenticated as original OGs. Welcome to my world, a world of the originals, the unique. Welcome to the original OGs. This is an interview that we've been doing with Triple OG Sam Chapman. We're going to add another Triple OG, and then we're going to add another OG, because he and I, we right there. And we're going to give you the reality of this whole conversation. It's a whole nother game. So I'm going to kick it in, and I'm going to let Sam do this because he can tell you better than I can, and I like to stay in my lane. So Sam, in your journey, we're talking about this gentleman. I'm going to let you define that and what that journey was like.
Well, I remember back in the day, I was in my early 20s, and I met these gentlemen, and we loved the dance. The dance we call stepping. And when I saw them dance, they took it to another level. They was just like, oh, man. They just took it to another level.
It got serious.
And it wasn't just Slim, and it wasn't just Taboo. It was George Macaroni, Ice Ray,
Mike.
My little, hey, and don't forget Little Mike, please. West Side, we had a couple of guys from the West Side. Little Alfred.
Man, you must be reading my mind.
These guys were incredible dancers.
Incredible.
And the thing is, they were not only just great dancers, they were creative dancers. They did a lot. George Macaroni had a thing where he would be shining his shoes on his, I got a video of him at the Beverly House with him shining his shoes.
Right.
Dancing with Linda of the Foxettes. They were creative dancers, and they inspired me to get. There wasn't no accident that I'm playing Eddie Kendrick's Body Talk or Skipping Work or Life in the Country. I had to dig deep to find this music every party I had. Make sure I had that one record that I wanted to introduce to the steppers, and they inspired.
So before we get over here, because this brother plays a very powerful and intricate role in this whole thing, we'll start with you, my good brother. Stepping, bopping, stepping, et cetera, et cetera. How did you get involved in stepping, and how did it affect your life?
When I was coming up, I used to go to the Times Square, and I used to see these guys dancing. I wasn't old enough to get in at that time.
I get it.
I needed another year to go. So I used to go around back and look in the window and see them dancing. They had sconce lights on and they was dancing. So I wanted to learn how to do that. So I used to go home, get in the mirror, and do my thing.
I get it.
I didn't want to be like. I just wanted to learn that dance, but I wanted to learn it in my own way.
Right.
And not stepping on nobody's feet. I used to watch these guys all the time at Times Square dancing, so I wanted to learn how to do that dance.
Okay.
But I didn't want to dance exactly like that. I just wanted to learn that dance, so I learned that dance, and I put my own little
stuff
Your
in
flavor
there.
in it.
Yeah, and so I met Mr. Jarrett, and he used to come on the low end all the time and pick me up and we started just kicking it. So I was watching him dance, and I had my own little style. He had his own little style, but he was always telling me, "You the coldest."
I get
You the
it.
coldest. But
I get it.
I'm watching him. I'm telling him, "No, you the man." What we did was he used to come and get me every day, and we would go out and we do this and do that. But I used to watch him.
I get
Watch
it.
him.
Taboo. In that conversation, what is Slim to you?
Man, first of all, I just want to thank God for allowing us to be in a peaceful place, because it's through His mercy that we here today, man.
Yes,
And I'm-
sir.
it's gonna be hard for me to get through this interview, because y'all might see me crying, man, because I'm sitting here with two men, that absolutely changed my life, man.
I get it.
Sam Chapman, he got us, man. We was 13 years old, man. And it ain't no Lil Mike and Taboo without Sam Chapman.
I get it.
Slim, what people gotta know about Slim was me and Lil Mike's idol. Me and Lil Mike used to, that's when we came to Sam. And the thing about this whole scenario is that I tell people Sam is the greatest DJ of all time when it come down to this stepping game. Slim and them just was ahead of their time. Slim, Ice Ray, Romeo, Herbie, them cats they never had to play, even Bishop Juan. But Bishop Juan was doing something else on the west side. So he could kind of mesh his in. But Slim them didn't have the platform that we had. They had to go in the Circle Campus in the Times Square, wherever they was. This man right here, Sam Chapman, gave the whole stepping game of our generation. He gave us the pathway.
Exactly.
He gave us the pathway for me and Lil Mike and George Macaroni and Alfred, and man, it goes. I don't even want to name names no more, because every time I name names, when I go back, I forgot somebody. You know what I'm saying? But I could always say me and Lil Mike, because it was always me and Lil Mike together every day.
I get it.
And Sam Chapman, at 13 years old, gave us that platform. Slim gave me and Lil Mike hope.
I get it.
Because when we saw Slim, you got Ice Ray, you got Romeo, you got Herbie, you got Lil Tommy, man, but it was Slim. And then
totally get it.
everybody else. In his era,
I totally get it.
he didn't have the platform that Sam Chapman gave us. So we went, like he said, we went from the south side to the west side. Slim then was stuck in a box.
I get it.
Sam opened that whole game up and allowed us to be great, where their greatness got overshadowed because they didn't have a platform. But this brother right here, man, me and Lil Mike, he was our whole world.
I totally get it. He gave you the inspiration.
He gave us the inspiration. Even Kim Boy, and I think Kim Boy was young. Kim Boy brought me to the game. But I think when Slim and Nikki won the contest on Soul Train, he was actually supposed to dance against Kim Boy. Kim Boy was our same age, but he was way in advance. We couldn't go out, and I don't even know how Kim Boy got on Soul Train. But Kim Boy and was, I talked to Kim. He said, "Man, I was supposed to dance against Slim, but I had to go to football practice because we was all athletes in high school. I played basketball, Kim played football. Lil Mike played basketball for King, so we was all athletes. But I think they used to go to Soul Train after we got out of school.
Right.
But man, Sam Chapman, Now seriously, even when I go off stepping and talk about my career, because a lot of people don't know, you know, and Sam is here. I was in the dungeon by myself. I met Lil Mike there.
Right.
And I moved out of the way for Lil Mike because I wanted to be a tailor.
Right.
And I say, Mike, you go take care of that part. I'm going over here to learn how to sew.
Right.
I went to learn how to sew. My first customer was Sam Chapman.
Wow.
Sam used to give away, remember, the Steppers Hall of Fame jacket. I didn't even know how to sew that well. And I'd make that jacket, Sam would give you that name, and he'll pick that name and what's popping. And to this day, it's a sister named Miss Cherry that got the first jacket I ever made. It got to be 40 years ago.
Man.
And she would not let me negotiate nothing.
You can't have that jacket.
That I can't get that jacket from her, man.
Think about that.
So, you know, I sit here because my only thing, when we created the Lifetime Achievement Award, when Irie came to me, I said the first person got to get that award is Sam Chapman.
Makes sense to me.
And then he said me. I said, sir, I can't accept that award. I got to go and find Slim. I got Sam Chapman. We was on the phone. Got Sam to St. Louis. Sam got there. I said, but I can't accept mine. We got to go find Slim. I went to 47th Street, came back. He gave me mine, put it in a box. Went to 47th Street. So Slim, I got to take you to St. Louis because you got to get the Lifetime Achievement Award because mine ain't no good until you get yours. Because I know to me, Sam Chapman need to get his. Slim used to need to get his, and Black Mary, and that's what I did. So my thing in the stepping world is that, you know, like I tell everybody, people all the time, without Sam, it ain't no Lil Mike, ain't no Taboo, ain't no George Macaroni, I can go on and on and on and on.
People always come to ask me about great dancers, and I mentioned Taboo, I mentioned Slim, I mentioned Little Alfred, I mentioned, you know, all these great dancers. And I always mentioned George Macaroni. Now, George Macaroni, Macaroni wasn't his real, that wasn't his real name. His name was George Graves, if I
George
remember.
Garn.
George, huh?
George Garn.
Okay. That wasn't, I thought Macaroni was actually his real name for years.
I did too.
But Macaroni wasn't his real, but Macaroni was not, he won the world's largest steppers contest, I think with Dorothea, and he was just a great dancer. But he was also a nice guy. And George Macaroni was a tailor.
I taught him how to sew.
Yeah, you taught him how?
Yeah, I taught
Matter of fact, he used to make them the
pants with the pleats.
With the pleats. I even had a couple of pairs. William Bonnet, the Rose Man, had a couple of pairs.
Hey, man.
But he was just a nice guy, and you know, it hurt me. Two people. I did Macaroni's funeral. I did Little Alfred's funeral, and it hurt me to my heart when I did their funeral.
Hey, man.
I mean, I cherished them that much. You know, Mr. Rick, let me just say this. In reference to the people that we're mentioning, why were they the important? They were the foundation of that started this rumor about stepping. And when they mentioned Taboo, Slim, they mentioned George Macaroni, Ice Ray, Little Alfred, Little Mike. These guys, everybody that was involved in stepping knew these names.
Oh, without a doubt.
They knew these names. We went on the west side. You had Skip on the west side.
Nut.
You had Nut.
Yes.
You had Darlinda. You had, you know.
Foxette.
Yeah.
West Side
these
Mike.
people, West Side Mike. These people were stepping. When you mention their name, everybody.
They're synonymous.
They knew exactly what you was talking about and who you were talking about. So the Chicago culture, you know, somebody asked me one time, was I jealous about this? I said no, because all they're doing is advertising what I've been advertising all my life.
Why would you be
You know,
mad?
I'm not jealous. I am thrilled that people in Atlanta, California, Las Vegas,
Stepping.
stepping and talking about Detroit, talking about stepping. That was a rumor out a couple of years ago. I think Casper, he might have made a mistake, said something about stepping started in Detroit, and it didn't. It was he made.
Yeah, he
it was,
made a mistake
he
for
might
real.
have been around. If I said he was
Peaking
around
too
a lot of
fast.
Detroit people, and he was throwing some accolades that way. But stepping is a Chicago thing, and we love it, and we cherish it.
And it's
to
going
this
strong.
day. And to see it spread all over the world,
Come
oh
on,
my
man.
God.
Alfred lived across in those red bricks, him and Craig. Man, I never seen nobody live.
Excuse me, he was a ballerina dancer
Yeah.
and on the steppers floor.
You must have been reading my mind.
Sir, he was a ballerina dancer on the steppers floor. Alfred had turns and spins, and I spoke I spoke at little Alfred's funeral,
Man.
and I never forget. I can remember like it was yesterday, and I don't know how long Alfred's been deceased. I said, "Why are y'all looking so sad?" Those are my exact. I said, "Alfred was not. There was never nothing sad around Alfred. He was bouncing and jumping up and down, and I said, smile, everybody here. Let me see
Man.
everybody smile.
Okay.
Because that's what little Alfred was smiling and dancing. Alfred was the first person I saw dance with 3 or 4 women.
Hey,
3 or
man,
4.
This dude was ridiculous, man.
But the thing about Alfred, man, and as I sit back, man, all of them were my friends. We was all friends. My baby mama, Linda, was one of his dance partners. They used to go down to V103 when they used to be in the park in the summertime, and him and Linda used to win all the contests together, and because Alfred was a skater, she was a skater.
Right.
And me and Tyrone Austin gave a fundraiser for Alfred at the Kingman's Club, and JoJo was there, and man, we just loved one another, man.
Right.
And I never forget when we was doing the birthday dance, and I was lining up all the women to dance for Alfred. He's like, "No, man, me and you got to get out." I'm like, "Alfred, look, man, go on dance with it." But the thing about our personal relationship, me, Lil Mike, George Macaroni, Alfred, all of us, man, came up together, and we started loving each other, man, on a whole nother level, and our well-being was, we were responsible for each other.
I get
and
it.
We had a friendship, coming up, we had a friendship that was, it was just unreal, man. When Sam put the Dungeon together, I tell people all the time, the Dungeon was like the NBA All-Star game.
I swear to
You
God.
had the top steppers from every community, 4 or 5 of them, from the top, and everybody in the Dungeon was cold-blooded, man.
Everybody.
in the Dungeon was cold-blooded on that dance floor.
I get it.
You had to be, when you come up in there, we knew if you was a visitor or not. The Dungeon had that kind of spirit, and then when we brought them cats, Lil Alfred and Nut and Skip and all that, Seco and Ricky McKnight and all them brothers from the West Side, and they joined in with us, man. It was a whole another kind of ball game, man, and it's just something that was not heard of in that day when you had all of these different gang factions. You got GDs dancing with Stones, you got Vice Lords dancing with GDs, we loving one another. It was just something, Sam.
Totally different ball game.
Sam, I tell people today, all of these out-of-towners, as we go all across this country, and they so fascinated, I say, y'all not really fascinated with our dance. Y'all fascinated with our culture.
Thank you.
Y'all just ain't figured it out yet.
Thank
we
you.
15 years old driving Cadillacs with tailor-made suits on. You know what
Whole
I'm
nother
saying?
game.
15, 14. And so they ain't figured it out. But by me being in and coming up under Slim them generation on the tail end, and then being in our generation and a couple generations after that, I figured it out. Man, they ain't crazy about that dance. They crazy about that culture, man. Because they crazy about the culture. They just ain't figured it out yet. And that's why they can't, the dance, man, our dance, none of us danced alike.
That was
But
the
we
beauty
all
of it.
did the same dance.
It's the same
That was
thing.
the beauty of
We
it.
never danced alike.
And dancing to the same music.
Dance to
Hello?
the same music. So it's something that I believe that God put in place for, you know, when they say what's for you is for you. I think stepping was something that God put in place for us as a tool, as a identity from Chicago. Because what I found out when I went to when I moved to Maryland in 1999, I found out that was the same time they tore all the projects down and they gave people one-way tickets out of this town. Where when R. Kelly's song "Stepping in the Name of Love" came out, it blew the thing up. So the only connection that a person that never ever stepped in his life, that moved to LA or Las Vegas, the only connection that they had to walk through that new system was they was a Chicago step.
You understand me? And to give you a prime example,
You understand what I'm saying?
what you're talking about out in L.A., Chase,
Yeah.
man, Chase out there cutting them a new one, man.
And this is what I'm saying. So a guy told me, Sam, I'm in Maryland. I got a big old class. So I found out anytime you somebody named themselves Chicago, well, then they just, you know, they
Automatically stepping.
Yeah. So the guy, they say, man, there's a guy here named Chicago, man. I want you to meet him, man, blah, blah, blah. So I meet the guy, he can't step a lick, right?
Right.
But the guy tells me, he said, man, well, you know, I went to Hirsch, man, and, you know, I used to dance against Taboo and Lil Mike all the time, man. when I
Yeah,
was
I'm
coming
talking
up.
to Taboo.
I'm looking at it. So I didn't, you know, I didn't say
Let him
nothing
talk,
to him
let him
like
talk.
that. But when it was over, I pulled him to the side, man. I said, man, I am Taboo, man. He said, oh, man, you know how we do it, man. You know, that ain't how we do it. That's why stepping got so out of hand out of this city. Because when they left this city, that was the only connection, Sam, that they had to Chicago.
That's the
Was
only-
stepping in the name of love. And people respected that dance so much that they said, okay, I'm going to get an edge. I'm going to say I'm a stepper.
Everybody that I know that left Chicago and went to Las Vegas, California, they became big time steppers
Stepper.
promoters.
And never stepped in Chicago. Never danced in Chicago.
Please.
Yeah.
They kept the culture. They made it grow. And you know, that's why right now people say, what do you think about stepping? And I got a video that I did with Emily McKendall in 1992. She asked me point blank, what did I think stepping is going? In 92, I said, we haven't scratched the surface. In
Going all around the
92,
world.
I say, because people are teaching their kids, their grandkids how to step. I say, and it's steady growing. I say, we haven't even came close. And today, it's 2025.
Hello?
We still
Going strong.
and growing.
Hello?
Like, the Temptation said, like a snowball rolling down
Rolling
the
down.
side
Hey,
of the
man.
slopes of a hill.
It's just growth.
It's growing.
You
and
feel
we,
me?
and we're going to continue to grow.
There was a time when stepping kind of slowed down a little bit.
I can answer that.
Yeah, the history of it is that
What happened, and like I share with people, man, you know, crack took our era out
I get
What?
crack took our era out because I mean, I watch all my friends become crack, and you know, I tell people today, the internet is taking these people out. Every culture had a addiction. I guess in my mom's them culture, my uncle them, it was heroin. In our culture, it was crack. In the culture they got now, they killing them with that internet, man. You know, that ain't no addiction. I got a class where you come in there and get $4,000 just to show up for 3 hours a day, but the first thing says no cell phone. Everybody flunked out my class. So they can't turn the cell phone off. That's
Couldn't
an
do it.
addiction.
Couldn't do it.
That's an addiction. You understand what I'm saying? So, and I never did drugs and I never did alcohol, but I never left my friends.
right.
You understand? I'm with them every day.
That's their
So,
choice.
so I understood. So I sit back and watch it. You know, watch that whole thing. So it went down and it went down because they was fighting for that thing. They were fighting for their life.
I get it.
I sat there and watched them, my homies,
Yeah,
fighting
get
for their
it.
life, man. And so they didn't have no time for no stepping. So it just went away for whatever time it went. And then I think what happened was Sam, you were the main benefit of that. You put so much meat in it that we came so strong up under your guidance that even when it died, we had left so much energy out there. Them young cats that finally started seeing what we was doing, they picked it up, not knowing, that no direction. They had no pathway. Like I talk to all them cats all the time, and I show them, you dance on the right foot, not the left foot. And the thing about it, as a man, you can't leave from that side. But the thing about it is this, because we were technicians in the dance. When you watch a guy like Slim and Lil Tommy and Raymond and Romeo, them guys were technicians. We learned from them. The guys that came up after us, Sick Man and Andre Blackwell and all of them cats, they never had the pathway to come to me because they didn't know me. I knew Slim. So now them guys, and me and Tick talk about it all the time, they did what they thought they saw. And if you don't get the right hands-on direction, the stuff Sam played, people can't mimic what Sam do. Sam play Life in the Country, Body Talk. They trying to create their own music because they can't mimic. And in my contest, I just had a Martin Luther King contest. I had everybody that called me with their song. I gave them songs to Sam. Sam said, this is a hell of a playlist. I ain't got to go nowhere and look for them because they already on my phone.
Right
because
here.
This what he knew. Because he had original steppers, different kind of music. So Sam set that program together for us that lasted for so long.
Still here.
Still here.
Couldn't take it out. It tried to. And I give them cats, man, credit, today. The guys, man, I love Tick, man, to death, man. And I used to, man, when I got Tick up under my wing, man, me and Tick became great friends because they at least they had the courage.
I get it.
They had the courage, man, to say, okay, I don't have access. I don't even know Taboo. But Westside Mike said, man, they talk about you every day in the joint. So they come out looking for us because most of the guys that come up with us in the dungeon, they wind up in prison.
Right.
10, 20, 30 years. So they don't know nothing about no new school. They still getting down the dungeon way up in the joint. So that's all what's going on up in there. The Tick Man said, man, they talk about you every day, man. I had to come and find out who you was. So, but the courage that they had. And then we wasn't going out of town. We barely went from neighborhood to neighborhood.
Yeah, okay.
Them cats started going out of town. They started meeting girls. And then, man, people started paying their way. You got to talk about guys that ain't never been around the block. And now somebody giving them a plane ticket. Man, they out of here, man.
Go to Atlanta, L.A., Las Vegas.
And it's big there.
Different world,
going no fee.
Different world, man.
And getting paid.
Different world, man. So you can't, I tell people all the time, my goal and my job is to just give them a pathway. To say, okay, Tick, come on, man, let me show you what Slim showed me.
Right.
Because direction is direction.
Period.
When you get good direction, my songs class is blowing up, man. I'm in my second 16 week, 48 people on the waiting list. You know what I'm saying? I just talked to Mr. Rick, his wife in my night class, and he said, man, they said, I got to go to class today.
They leave me standing.
These two kids, bro, they got their own table. But it's all about giving people the proper direction. I taught George Macaroni how to sew. All of them guys went to Wendell Phillips. Right. They had home economics. Right. Dunbar had tailoring.
That's right.
So
That's right.
Tailoring and home economics is different. So they all came to me because Dunbar was a vocational school, but we all were homies. You know what I'm saying? So, I go in there and get my tailoring skills. I'm like, okay, well, come on, and now let me show you how to put pockets in. Let me show you how to do this. Let me show you how to do that. But a brother from the West Side taught me that used to make Bishop Juan them clothes. Larry Bradley. He
Get
used to
it.
make bishop clothes, general clothes, Cadillac clothes, all of them cats, God. And I be down this baby, man, you know, I'm like, man, him and Tony Pimp. Tony
Yeah.
Pimp,
Tony
mother
the
used to make
Tailor.
that
I
ass.
didn't know that.
Tony the Tailor.
So my thing, man, is that God kept, and you know, my life is so, Sam, when we did, me and Nikki, we went to JLM the other day, and I thought about when we did the Gone But Not Forgotten.
Wow.
Man, Sam called me at 12 o'clock, said they still coming in. Man, I'm talking about guys they ain't stepped in 100 years, just came, and Sam, it was just, and you know, when I couldn't do it no more, because when my flyer got to 100, when I had 100 dead homies on my flyer.
Wow.
Remember, Sam? And people was calling Sam at the radio station, Taboo missed my name. Sam say, he can't put everybody on there. And he told me to put just many more.
Right.
But I couldn't do it no more, man, because, you know, I think about, man, these guys I love, man, Alfred, Lil Mike, George Macaroni.
Me too.
You know, and it just goes on and on. And I couldn't even think about doing it now, man, because now, you know, when you start adding Kim Boy and
Man.
Johnny's and Demeter and
Wow.
Yeah.
Donnie Ray, I can't do it no
Yeah,
more, man.
totally get it.
So it's like now, and a lot of people be telling me, man, you the last one standing. That's not true, man. And, you know, we still got homies that was with us. We still got Slim. We still got Ray. You know, I mean, and people don't realize, you know, how powerful that thing was, man. And Sam,
unbelievable.
You for God put something in you, man, at that time. You know, we were 13 years old. When we left the dungeon, we had to get off the bus at 90, before we get to 95th, because the police be waiting on us. That's when they had the curfew.
Right.
Police be sitting there waiting on you to write you up for curfew. So this is what he did for us at 13 and 14 years old, and that thing spread it. And I love Slim, Ray, Romeo, and Lil Tommy was Colleen's cousin. Man, them guys gave up a pathway, man.
I get it.
You know, they gave us a pathway.
I'm gonna lead into something for the three of you. I want to talk about 6 steps, 8 steps, and the music that best applies to that.
Let me speak on that first, because in the era that he's talking about with Lil Mike and Alfred, and that was never any steps. This came later on when people started giving quote unquote steppers lessons.
I
and
get
that
it.
We never got into how many counts. It was unknown. So this is for the basically. I don't like to use the word, but this is for basically the new schoolers who talk about counts and 6 steps and 8 steps. So I have no knowledge of that. Maybe Slim and Taboo could relate to that.
Is there a different groove there for certain music?
No.
Same rhythm.
I say no.
Okay.
It's all basic.
Yeah, same.
And I'll let them elaborate on
No,
that.
go ahead, go right ahead.
Taboo, go ahead.
I can say, you know, me and Slim do the same dance.
Right.
Okay? So, and the thing about it is this, and it goes back to pathway. See, they didn't have a pathway. So, in all partner dance, I come from, when I left Chicago, I went to D.C. D.C. is the hand dance capital of the world. I met Frankie Manning. Frankie Manning is, you look at all them movies, Frankie Manning was the choreographer for all them movies. Just died about 95 or 60. But he said to me, and we didn't do no count, but he shared with me that all partner dance have 6 steps. So when I went back and did my steps, it's 6 steps. What the 8 counters did was this. They added 2 counts, which is really 2 pauses. See, the dance had 2 pauses if they want to put numbers in, because then once you start teaching, you got to have a direction. So on 4 and 6, it's a pause there. That's the only way you can do your move in. They kept moving. So, but you got to look at this. Once you look, they could never dance off Sam Chapman music because it is. Because once you, first of all, when you got a lady count, I have no idea why a lady is counting and I'm leading her. That's number one. Okay, so why is she counting and I'm leading her? But then after so long, when you get caught up in them numbers, then they ain't dance to the music no more. Because the music don't even go the way that they count. When you count a basic dance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then you got a basic temptation, you got that
basic
flow,
beat.
that tap is there, tap, tap, tap. When you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the music don't go that way. So that's where they lose track at, but I don't get into that because
I get it.
if that's what they want to do,
That's on them.
That's on them. But me and Slim do the same dance, and like I say, when I brought in Tick Man, and I taught Tick Man how to dance on the right foot, because all of them guys lead on the left foot because it's easier to teach a woman. So when you go into going to class, everybody going in the same direction. But they dancing on the left foot, so that's why Slim know I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And that's why and then another thing, the reason why guys like Slim them don't have no interest in the dance, because they pathetic at what they do, man.
I get it.
They pathetic at what they do. And it's just like when Sam see a DJ that just ain't DJing the way DJ's supposed to be DJing, he ain't interested in that.
I'm out the door.
You can't
I
get,
totally
you
get it.
can't get Slim's them attention. And I talked to Ice Ray, I talked to Romeo, I talked to cats that came way before me. Said the dance don't interest me no more.
And you know what? Another thing, I don't criticize these DJs.
Absolutely.
I don't
I get
criticize. I'm out the door.
I get it. I
So
totally
what's your
get
take
it.
on that, Slim?
You know, when you mentioned that, you remember when we was in Detroit, Sam? You was giving out awards. Sam and I got an award. When you called Sam, people got up, they did, you know what they do. When it was time for you to call me, you wouldn't go on. You wouldn't let me come on or get announced until everybody in the place stood up. You remember that?
Absolutely.
They was acting like, you know, they didn't want to get up or whatever. She said, well, we ain't going on until, you know, y'all stand up. Everybody in the whole place stood up.
2,500 people.
Stood up.
My life is about honoring people, man. Yeah. My thing is this. I come from a world, you know, I was the only child until I'm 18 years older than my brother.
Okay.
And I come from a mom and a father, man, that understand honor. My thing is, man, like I tell all these cats, man, you know, at the end of the day, we gotta honor people out here, man. And when Slim came, nobody knew Slim. He got caught up in the same hole because we just forget,
like the rest
man.
of us.
You know, we just forget. And I just wanted to honor this cat because not even Sam Chapman knew that me and Lil Mike, we used to look in the window. He was
Peeking
George
at this guy.
Macaroni. We be in the room, man, Slim, Slim, because this was our idol. But we were kids before we knew Sam. We come in there, we 11, 12 years old, we going to see Slim and Ice Ray. And he was just Raymond Smith then, he wasn't Ice Ray.
No,
he was
right,
Raymond Smith.
Smith.
Get it.
And Romeo. And these cats was our idol, man.
I totally get it.
You know, and when they tried to give me an award like I'm so great, I'm like, oh no. Sam Chapman gonna get it first. And I'm gonna go find Slim. And I went on 47.
Yeah.
Did I?
Yes, you did.
I went to 47,
Yeah.
got him, and said, I'm taking you to St. Louis.
Yes, you did.
And I told Irie, I said, Irie, got to give this award to Slim first. And then we can move forward.
Yeah.
But then we can move forward. You talk about baseball, they still
Hall
talk
of
about
Fame.
Babe Ruth. You know what I'm saying? And like I tell people all the time, people say whatever they want to say. So, you know, Sam Chapman is the greatest that ever did this because he played music for the greatest that ever did it.
Right.
He created the greatest generation of all time when it come down this step. And y'all were before y'all time.
Yeah.
No generation had hundreds and hundreds of greats, man. The dungeon did not have nothing but greats
Fire.
in that room, man.
Fire.
Huh?
Fire.
Unbelievable. Then we went to the west side
For real.
and brought the greats over there.
yeah.
And
Hey,
you know
man.
anybody come in the dungeon, man, you had to be great.
You couldn't get on that
74 to
You couldn't get on
78.
that dance floor unless you were qualified.
Hey,
Couldn't do it,
I
man.
mean, you know, and I would have guys come to the dungeon and stand on the sideline. I'll give you an example, like Donnie Davis.
Donnie Davis was a wallflower.
He was a wall. These guys was they were in another level.
I get it.
They were, to describe them, I can't.
I get
can't. You had to see them. And you know what's so beautiful, Mr. Rick? I got videos
Wow.
from the Beverly House, from the Keyman's Club.
We
I
gotta
got
talk
videos
about that.
of these guys dancing, and sometimes I just sit back and I play the whole video, and I just sit and I look at them, and all I do is smile.
We gotta talk about that.
They were just absolutely incredible.
But the thing about what people got to understand is how powerful stepping was to us, man. We would come in the dungeon with a tailor-made suit on, the floor flooded. I don't know what that thing used to
Yeah,
get
the
wet.
walls would sweat.
Man,
It
look,
was
we
sweat,
had
yeah.
on our tailor-made suit, we got muck all on them.
Didn't care.
Man, did
Shoes.
not care, man, because
That's
that
what
thing
you come to do.
was so important to us, man. And that's what I tell people all the time, man. Y'all just don't realize how important that dance to us, man. And and people used to talk about me and Lil Mike all the time, but man, they don't really realize me and Lil Mike used to go home and say, man, we got to get busy this week, cause they
Man.
coming, man.
There's one other name that we keep with us, mention all these great dancers, and there's one name that we keep mentioning, Larry Joe.
Larry Joe.
Larry
Joe.
Now, I work for CTA, and one day I went over there was a bus station on 103rd, right across from the Beverly House. That was 103rd Street bus station. And I went over to the bus station. I'm passing out my plug. I had a CTA event coming up.
Right.
And somebody said, "Are you the bleep, 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 bleep that DJ that be out at the dungeon?" And he was the bus driver that picked up everybody from the dungeon
Right.
on Sundays. And he cursed me out and called me all kind of, and I asked him, what was the problem? He said, there was a problem every Sunday on the, when they pick up. Come to find out, it was Larry Joe.
Larry Joe was
Larry Joe was humbugging. They coming on the back door, and the bus driver, he told me, I ain't stopping for him. He told me point blank. So that day, I called the CTA supervisor and had the supervisor meet us at when the dungeon let out.
Right.
And the supervisor loaded up the bus, and I got on the bus and I went to 95th. He said, the bus driver said, I don't believe. There wasn't a peep out of nobody on the bus. I said, Larry Joe, and I told Larry Joe, he said, I'll never humbug on the bus. Because Larry Joe kept with something. He said, I cannot believe that. There wasn't a sound made all the way from 109th in Michigan to the 95th in the Dan Ryan.
But
He-
you were driving.
I was out. I was standing there with the driver anyway, with the driver, and he said he took the driver. I saw him a couple of weeks later. He said, I don't believe that. He said, I never had another problem on that. He had that run. That was his run every Sunday. He didn't have nobody on the bus till he got to the dungeon.
Yeah.
Right.
And the bus got loaded. Everybody got on the bus because they was going to either the west side or the low end.
On
And,
95th, man, we was.
It was unbelievable.
And the thing is, we were kids, man.
Teenagers.
We were
it,
teenagers,
bro.
man. We the dungeon, man. And I see, Sam, why so many people say they was at the dungeon, man, because the dungeon was the mecca, man.
Yeah.
If you came through the dungeon 74 to 78, it was the mecca, man. When Cousin Danny got it, Cousin Danny got Ty Skippy, he got John Neese. All of them came after Sam went to the Purv's house. John Neese, Ty Skippy, all of that era came after us.
I get
But
it.
that 74 to 78, man, that era was unbelievable, man. That was, and the thing about it, and then they don't even remember, we started as the Palladium South with Sam Chapman. Upstairs,
Upstairs.
and
Way
then went
before that.
downstairs.
Man on man stepping.
Well, that I think, you know, what people had to realize is that man on man was Slim and Herbie. They
Invented that.
I mean, we used to just sit there. I mean, George Macaroni, me, Lil Mike, all of us just sit there and watch. See, we 11 years old,
I get
12
it.
years old, watching Slim.
Totally get it.
By the time we got to Sam, Slim them era, they didn't have the pathway. It still goes back to they were homebound.
I get it.
We went from all the projects, all the neighborhoods, everywhere, to the dungeon. Then we went to the West Side Kingman's Club, Hampton House, and all of that. Slim them, they neighbor. I met Raymond and Romeo in Phillips' gym room at a sock hop.
Get it.
That was their base. So these cats right here, him and Herbie, Raymond and Romeo, Lil Tommy.
How do you explain the experience of man on man?
When I was coming up, I used to see these people coming down the street on 48th in Indiana.
Okay.
Times Square was on 48th and Wabash.
Okay.
Every Friday and Saturday, they shop, they go. I'm like, where they going, you know? So
Yeah.
I get up and I go around there and I come around the back and I'm looking in the window. They had the sconce light out then, you know. And when the sconce light come on, they playing, you know, stepping cuts, but it wasn't stepping then, it was bopping.
Right.
So I used to go home and you know, I idolized what they was doing, but I didn't want to be like them. I wanted to be different.
Right.
So I used to get in the mirror. We had this big old mirror on the wall. And I used to get in the mirror and dance, just doing my thing.
I get it.
And it was totally different from what they was doing. I just added my steps in there.
I get it.
You know. So I met Taboo, and he used to come every week looking for me.
Got to go.
Come and get me. We do whatever. But for some reason, he just liked my style.
Right.
I told him, but man, you cold.
I get it.
You know, I ain't got nothing against you. You cold. You know what I'm saying? And he would tell me, you the man.
I totally get it when you admire somebody.
And so we were at a thing. Sam was there. He introduced Sam. Sam got his award. And then when it was time for him to introduce me, he said, I want everybody to stand up and give this man an applause. We ain't going no further until everybody stand up. So a few people act like they didn't acknowledge this. So he did what he said, you know. And then all of a sudden they all stood up. And Taboo gave Sam his award, gave me my award. Everything went according to the way he wanted it to go, the way it should have went.
Right.
You know, and I already knew Sam because I used to go, Sam was everywhere. So wherever Sam was at, we was at.
Right.
You know, and from that point on, the acknowledgement just came natural.
You know, let me just say, I think the man on man, they would go to each other's house, like Slim would come over here and they'd practice. So that became the man. So
The man on
because
man,
they were practicing the dance, they wanted to show the crowd, you know, their moves and they. So at one point at my events, I stopped the guys from dancing with each other because there was so many ladies there.
Right.
You know, and they would get in a circle and then the guys would dance. So I stopped them from dancing. I also stopped couldn't wear gym shoes at my party. That came years later,
Right.
because the average stepper had on tailor-made shoes.
Exactly.
And, you know,
All of that.
and Maoris and
Yeah.
alligators, and and that kind of. So that man on man came from them practicing.
But think about this, Sam, just think about this. When you talk about top of the level great dancers, you got Slim and Herbie, you got Taboo and Lil Mike, you got George Macaroni, you got Lil Alfred.
And they get on the floor together.
And I mean, it's just go, you had Blinky and Bobo, you had Benny and Rick. I mean, it was always them two. The women, like Sam say, he had to shut it down because there wasn't no women involved.
I get it.
We would shut the joint down.
The two guys shut the whole set down dancing together.
Yeah.
And I had to, I made a rule: guys cannot dance with each other.
Yeah.
And I did that for a long time. At the Keemans, Burners, and I know the first time they came to the Keemans Club, that's why the guys was outside waiting with the bats and the bricks, and because the ladies were just fell in love with them.
Yeah.
I didn't find out till years later, Mr. Rick, how many ladies had kids by the Southside guys.
Totally get it. Totally
And
get
vice
it.
versa, and the dungeon lady. Now I can't, just sitting here thinking about it, I can only name about 4 or 5 ladies names from the dungeon. 4 or 5. I can name a ton of men. I can name a ton of ladies from the Keemans Club, but I can't. If I had sit there just thought for a minute.
That thing, man, that man on man was so cold, though,
Oh,
man. Man, it was, even when we went west, man, I mean, even when we went west and the guys, wanted to, do some stuff to us, I never forget Willie K say, man, we ain't doing none of that. You know what I'm saying? Them guys, man, they over here stepping down. And Sam brought us there, man, and we started dancing with each other.
Yeah.
That's how little Alpha started dancing with us. But what I tell people is this. You gotta understand, it was the same dance.
I get it.
Because if we would never, ever, ever been able to dance with each other if we wasn't doing the same dance. So that's what I try to tell these new schoolers, man. Them new schoolers can't dance with each other because what they doing don't match up, and it's okay.
I get it.
And they want to, continue to learn because everything is, things grow, things go this way, things go that way. But I'm telling you, man, our era, man, with the way we came through that thing, man.
Hey, man.
Lil Mike been dead since 1981.
It's been that long.
1981. Lil Mike was 24 years old when he got killed. Let me tell you something, man. You can go anywhere in a party right now, and they mention that man's name.
I totally get it.
That's a legacy, man. Alfred. Man, that's a legacy, man. I know people died last week. They ain't mentioned their name yet.
Okay.
1981. I was out west the other day, man. A guy walked up and he said, man, I love you and Lil Mike. So that's what Sam Chapman did for us, man.
There's always been women there. I don't want the audience to get us wrong, but when does it start transitioning to whereas the man begins to say to himself that, hey, the importance of my game is a bad woman?
There were several ladies during that beginning of the stepping era. Speedy, you remember Speedy? Speedy was she was one of the ladies. Notorious. There was a female Taboo. She lives
Kathleen.
Kathleen.
Yeah.
She lives in Atlanta Maryland now. There was Janice. Synth was first.
It was first.
Synth was first. Then Demeter, and then Janice. These were ladies. Then West Side, you had Darlinda and the Foxettes, and on and on and on. Ladies came after, later. They began to get that recognition as ice cold.
Right.
Lady. But in the beginning, it was strictly a male-dominated game.
It was.
And then ladies came late. I mentioned those ladies' names. They were
Changed the game.
Scent.
Scent was one of the first one of the first superstars.
Great. She was
And stepping.
Changed the game.
She was, and they did change the game.
And that's a beautiful thing, man. Yeah. So, as the Temptations used to say, take a stroll through my mind. So you take a moment, and stroll through your own mind and let the audience go with you.
My thing, man, I just want to tell people, a lot of people don't understand, I love to dance, but stepping changed my life. Right now I'm strong in my sewing game, man, but Sam, and that's why I'm always close to Sam. Like I said, he rode my mother free and didn't even know who she was. And this is the kind of character
I get it.
that he has. But he always, I just look to him as a mentor for me. Because without stepping, I know that I wouldn't have the popularity
Life wouldn't be the same.
that I have right now. And then I just took it into my business world. And then with Slim, he was just a motivator for me and Lil Mike, and a lot of people don't realize, we didn't have Lil Mike. I met Lil Mike in 1974 at the Dungeon, and he was dead in 81. That's 7 years,
7 years.
That's all we had with Lil Mike. But Lil Mike and I, we idol Slim. And that's what gave us the motivation.
And to be sitting here
man.
on this show,
that's just
to
me.
be able to have that conversation, that's a beautiful thing. Let's take a stroll through your mind, bro.
What comes to my mind is Soul Train. So I wanted to be on this show. At the time that I went to the show, Kim Bowie was going on the show also.
Okay.
But he had a class that he had to go to first. So he didn't show up. I showed up, won the whole thing. From Soul Train here, Clinton Gent,
Right.
to go to California, where Don Cornelius had went and got syndicated.
Right.
And so before Kim Bowie had died, he used to tease me all the time. He said, you know why you won that, right? He said, because I was late for class. I would have been late for class, and I had to go to class. And so we laughed about that, and
I get it.
still remember that to the day,
I totally get it, man.
But I put all my all in it, and when I met this man here, he was just as cold as I am. I told him.
And being the maestro of the whole thing, give us a stroll through your mind.
When I take, the Temptations had a record out called "Take a Stroll to Your Mind," and when I take a stroll to my mind, I am just thankful that I met these people. I'm very thankful. I enjoyed not only them, the way they danced, the way they performed, but I enjoyed just being around dancers, period. I just loved it, and I mentioned the music. I love Eddie Kendricks. I'm a Smokey Robinson man, Luther Vandross man. I can just go on and name all these great entertainers. When I think about these people, that I've met over the course of the years, I am just absolutely blessed.
I introduced Sam Chapman to Otis Williams.
Yes, you did.
When I traveled with the Temptations for 10 years. And when we came to Chicago, I gave Sam, I said, we coming to Chicago, I'm gonna give you some tickets, and I'm gonna take you backstage. We was at the Airy Crown, and I took him back there to meet Otis Williams.
To this day, I rate the Temptations the greatest in the history of recorded music.
I get it.
I don't know. Now, there's a lot of groups I rate highly, but I don't rate nobody over the Temptations.
That's the importance of this show, the journey we just took, and
Magnificent journey.
and we need to allow people to know our story, the culture.
If I was watching this show on YouTube or whatever is on, I would not turn it off.
This culture has been strong for a long time.
And I took it for granted. I honestly, I never tried to place myself above these people. I was a regular. I was a regular. That's the way I looked at myself. Never put myself above my crowd.
And I'm gonna close on this. You never really know that you're making history until you look back and it's already been made.
Thank you.
For the future of stepping and the future of a culture, a part of our culture that has to be preserved, what are your ambitions and your efforts to make that happen?
From a teaching standpoint, I used new school. I took a new schooler that came to this culture that was upside down in the dance, named Nikki. And I'm telling you, I taught her. And I have legends coming up to her saying, you dance like we used to dance in the dungeon. And my goal is to show the people that the dance can be taught properly. You just gotta listen. When it goes back down to the male driven, men gotta, they gotta assert themselves and they gotta make that woman feel comfortable. And that's why I want to do the video, because I want to show the world the dance can be taught.
And it's been Sam-tastic.
Okay.